Citizenship by investment is on its deathbed, and a lot of our investor clients have already moved to two replacement routes we'll discuss today. It's James from the Freedom Files, and in this video you'll learn why these direct citizenship programs are under fire, how the US and the EU are attacking them, and how these two alternate routes work. This video alone may save you hundreds of hours of research and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So let's start with the death certificate first. Citizenship by investment was born in St. Kitts and Nevis in the Caribbean in 1984. Essentially, you wire money to a government if it's a donation, or you could buy real estate, and in return, you receive a passport. You receive nationality, citizenship in that country. Now, since then, 30 to 40 programs have come, stayed, and gone, and about 25 are still alive today. And the count grows most years. In the past 12 months alone, Nauru opened at around 105,000 US dollars. Now it's back down to about 90,000 to compete. Sao Tome and Principe came in near 90,000 US dollars, and Sierra Leone joined them, while Argentina, the Solomon Islands, and Botswana have announced plans of their own citizenship by investment programs. Now, I've worked in this industry for a decade, and a huge majority of my colleagues and I expect at least one program introduction per year. So no, the product is not disappearing entirely. It is, in fact, getting cheaper for middle-class Americans and spreading to more jurisdictions that need capital to fund innovative projects to help their citizenry. This is democratization at work. What is dying, though, is the version that powerful governments tolerated at first. So let me explain. In 2025, the European Court of Justice ruled that Malta's popular direct citizenship by investment program illegal. That was the last citizenship by investment program inside the European Union, erased with a single EU ruling. Then in June of this year, the European Commission sent letters to the 5 Eastern Caribbean CBI states, and the conversation on the ground shifted to what a 2-year wind down of those programs would look like. They gave them an ultimatum: either lose visa-free access or end your programs entirely. The island's counteroffer, a proposed 30 days of physical presence plus annual application caps, has convinced almost nobody, though. Very few of us in the industry really think these Caribbean governments will enforce it. And Washington and Brussels have leaned on these programs for years to raise their prices, to tighten due diligence. And because of that, the price floor doubled, and processing times too, as a result. Demand, though, did not die with that pressure from these powerful governments. Americans, Canadians, and even Western Europeans with capital want a second citizenship now more than ever, as insurance against their own government's next policy swing or tax hike. Now, before I show you the two routes that replace these front door direct citizenship by investment programs, you need to see the weapon that Europe is building to castrate the value of a second citizenship. It's called ETIAS, the EU's new travel authorization system. And if a Caribbean passport is anywhere in your future, in your plans, you need to understand this. ETIAS has already launched and then will become mandatory in 2027 for all EU member countries. On paper, it is not a visa. Rather, it's a €7 flat fee, an online form, and an approval that can take minutes or 30 days, depending on who you are. Visa-free access to the Schengen area used to mean booking a flight to Paris tonight and simply inputting your passport details, enter the block. Whether you're landing in Paris, Madrid, or Frankfurt, didn't matter. But under ETIAS, you must first ask the EU for permission from the same bureaucracy that spent the last 5 years attacking these programs in public, in the limelight. And the EU has already shown what enforcement looks like. It suspended Vanuatu's visa-free access in 2022 and then revoked it permanently in 2024, after Vanuatu reformed its program to satisfy the needs of the EU. So the reforms didn't save them, and I'm not certain that the Caribbean's reforms will save them either, unfortunately. We cover that in another video on your screen now. You can check that out after this one. My colleagues and I fully expect the EU to use this ETIAS system to discriminate against CBI passport holders specifically. Approve one natural-born Caribbean traveler, but deny the CBI citizen with the same nationality seated right next to him. Now, who eats that loss? Honestly, it's not going to be a lot of our American clients. Why? Because American passport holders already have visa-free access to Europe's Schengen area. Americans are buying that Plan B in the Caribbean for a fallback option if politics or the economy or the dollar turn at home. And for a small, consistent group, the second passport is the legal precondition to renouncing, since it's generally not wise to renounce your American citizenship without another nationality in hand. So the citizenship investors who paid for Schengen visa-free access are Nigerian, they're Indian, they're Egyptian, they're Chinese, they're Lebanese families, and Gulf expatriates with no path to naturalization where they live. Nigeria's Schengen refusal rate reached 46% in 2024, and African applicants paid roughly 60 million euros in non-refundable fees for European visas. So for them, European visa-free access was and is a very big deal. For you, watching this from Texas or Florida, likely is not. So the right response to all this pressure is not panic. It's redesign. Route your European access through Europe itself, and route your citizenship strategy through channels that the powers that be cannot touch. So what are those two options we mentioned at the top? I think these are the future of investment migration and international optionality. Let's get into them. So route number one is citizenship by merit, which many of you on this channel may have never heard of. We haven't covered it in too much detail, but it is there. More than 130 countries, about 7 in 10, have a provision in their nationality law that lets the government and politicians grant citizenship to any individual it considers of value to the nation. That's scientists, athletes, doctors, philanthropists, economists, businessmen, politicians, investors, you name it. But there is no published price, there is no program, there is no processing agency, and there's no application or a portal to submit that application. The government decides whether you're worth having and signs a decree. Now, if citizenship by investment was the front door with a posted price and a published checklist, with a queue that anyone with clean funds can join, the EU chained that front door shut. Citizenship by merit is the side door. There is no sign above it or price on the glass. It's a speakeasy, and the owner decides who comes through. You can regulate that menu, but you cannot regulate an invitation. And this is not just political theory. Austria has used its side door for decades, granting hundreds of citizenships to mostly business people who created jobs or made significant investments in Austria. And Brussels really has not complained. And look what Malta did after its EU court loss last year. In July 2025, it repealed the Citizenship by Investment program as suggested by the EU, and then rewrote the law. So merit-based naturalization under Legal Notice 159 of 2025 is now the only route to Maltese citizenship outside the ordinary track. A proposal letter, due diligence, an independent evaluation board with sector experts, and a minister with final discretion. The EU banned the transaction of citizenship by investment. Malta answered with discretion because that's sovereign prerogative that the EU has no legal tool against. Now, like I said, this isn't just hearsay. This route has gone celebrity. Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank announced Emirati citizenship a few years ago. Then in April of this year, Albania's president signed a decree granting former New York Mayor Eric Adams citizenship. A weird one, but there it is. And that was at Adams' own request, passport included. I'm curious, comment below. Would you accept citizenship by merit if a government offered you one? I mean, why wouldn't you? But maybe name your favorite country in which you would love citizenship by merit. That's maybe a little bit more interesting. The trade-off here is the flip side of that discretion. No published price also means no guarantee. Timelines are completely case by case. And if the minister says no, there is no appeal. This is a subjective process. And you might say, come on, I don't have a TV show and I've never been a mayor. Fair enough, but the bar is national interest. So as long as you prove that your skills, your credentials, what you can contribute to the country is of national interest, that's it. Austria's hundreds of grants went mostly to founders and investors, nobody new outside their industry. A meaningful business exit, a patent, or capital aimed at a sector a country wants to grow can put you in the conversation. If you hire 50 workers in a country, you're making a serious mark on an economy and citizenry. and may be eligible for citizenship. The work is presenting your case to the right government leaders, and that is precisely what we do. You can contact us on the website. Or better yet, if you want to know which structured programs are the best fit for you, these aren't citizenship by merit programs, routes, but we can recommend some that fit you. Or better yet, if you want to know which structured programs, not citizenship by merit routes, are the best fit for you, go to freedomfiles.co/begin, answer 10 questions in 90 seconds, and you'll get a custom report on the routes that fit your money, your timeline, your goals. Okay, so that is the invitation route, right? Route number 2 is not so subjective and gives you something tangible in the meantime. I think these two routes are the future of invest migration, so stay until the end so you soak in all of this info. Residency by investment with a pathway to citizenship works like this. You invest, the country grants you residency with sometimes minimal presence requirements or special tax privileges or a fast track to naturalization. Then the years pass and citizenship arrives through ordinary naturalization, the same channel that almost all immigrants worldwide and to that country use. No court can call that transactional because the passport comes from time in the country's system and simply checking the boxes required for naturalization. And notice what, let's say, a European residency permit gives you that a Caribbean passport no longer can. Residency rights in Europe bypass ETIAS altogether. If you have a Portuguese residence card, you do not have to ask Brussels for permission. That is the premium for certainty. And it is why so much capital has shifted from buying citizenships outright to maybe buying residency. Again, expect this in the future. This is what a lot of our clients are doing these days. Let's start with Portugal and hold your judgment for a second. You and I are both frustrated with what's happened there in the last few years, but hear me out. The property route died in 2023. They dropped the foreign income tax exemption. They've slowed down golden visa processing to about 30 to 40 months until approval on average. They set the citizenship clock start to when you're approved instead of when you apply. And finally, in the last few months, they doubled the naturalization clock to 10 years from 5. So to say the program and the country's attractiveness have changed is an understatement. But, and this is a big but, physical presence required of golden visa investors is still 7 days in your first year, then 14 days per 2-year period thereafter, an average of 7 days a year, the lightest requirement of any residency program in Europe. Your capital goes to work in a managed investment fund instead of vanishing as a donation. Well, there is that option as well if you're up for a non-refundable contribution. And you can exit the fund once the qualifying period ends. So while the naturalization time is going to be 14 or 15 years in practice, permanent residency still arrives at year 5 either way, and citizenship eventually with that physical presence rule. This shows us that these residency by investment programs with incentives like minimal stay requirements, a faster timeline to citizenship, special access to tax regimes, and more are here to stay. These are the perks that investors seek. Now, Panama's qualified investor visa is similar. If you purchase $300,000 of Panamanian property, invest $500,000 through the stock exchange, or open a $750,000 bank account deposit, you get permanent residency from day one, with approvals in 30 to 90 days, usually on the later end of that. But that's still 3 months compared to Portugal's 40. Presence in practice is 1 visit every 2 years to preserve that residency. And after 5 years, you can apply for citizenship through naturalization. Our attorneys on the ground expect rule changes that would write that 5-year route and minimal stay into the regulation itself. And this is really exciting. And add on top of that, Panama's territorial tax system, meaning foreign source income is exempt from Panamanian tax if you become a tax resident there. In other words, if you relocate to Panama. So relocation isn't necessarily a bad thing either. Residency by investment prices like term life insurance. You buy the policy while the premiums are low before you need it, because the premium only moves up. Portugal's premium went up in May when the citizenship timeline doubled. And Panama's follows in October when they may or may not raise their qualified investor visa investment threshold to $500,000 from $300,000. They've canceled investment threshold raises in the past. That's why I say maybe. The family that waits for perfect certainty typically pays the price. If you're enjoying this video, by the way, and you like the Inside Baseball, drop a like and subscribe. This tells us to create more videos like this one. Now, you might be thinking, If the EU is successful in killing citizenship by investment, what stops them from coming after these other two routes next? Fair question, of course. The court's objection to Malta's citizenship by investment program wasn't not the investment. It was the fact that those investors had no genuine connection to that country, or so they said. Residency routes build that connection by design, because time in the system is the product. Merit grants have survived decades of scrutiny because discretion is written into a nation's own sovereign law. Does the EU have the appetite to overrule their own member states' sovereign civil code? Maybe, but I don't think they do. So the question is, which route fits you? If you have a meaningful exit behind you or capital aimed at a sector a government wants to grow, citizenship by merit deserves your consideration. If you want predictability and a defined timeline, residency by investment is your lane. Portugal for the European foothold at 7 days a year, Panama for speed and the friendlier tax base, provided you move soon. There are many such programs around the world that provide investors incentives like these if you contribute to their economy, and we cover them in the video that's linked at the end of this video, so hold on just a second. And if a Caribbean CBI fits your plan B anyway, it can still be the right call, and we would tell you either way. You can book a call with us directly on our website and we'll have that conversation. But also, if you're undecided, freedomfiles.co/begin gets you that personalized blueprint report in about 90 seconds, so check it out. Now, speaking of residencies you can maintain from the US, from your couch, we broke down the top 9 golden visas that don't require you to move. Presence requirements included, and it's on your screen now. Talk to you soon, and thank you so much for watching.